a lot of dealers are going, is this even worth it? And a lot of them are saying, gee, if the ATF comes for me, I'm just gonna close shop. This isn't an industry that you make money hand over fist, and and the regulations are just absolutely absurd. So so a lot of these people just choose to give up. When you take a look at the numbers, even the revocation numbers, that a lot of them aren't even, a lot of these dealers aren't even getting their, well, okay, I'll give you for instance, if all of a sudden at this point I said, hey, you know what, I'm done, I can't afford this anymore, there you go. They would not count that as a revocation. Okay, well, he gave up his license. And so the numbers really don't match.
Well, I'm not surprised. Have you ever told dealers about the Nazi roots of the '68 Gun Control Act? And if so, what kind of response do you get from gun dealers?
I think at first there's a lot of dealers who sit there and, go, okay, well, they're, when they start taking a look at it, when I've started delving more into this and taking a look at a lot of history and realizing, what has happened and realizing as far as how a lot of this relates, it makes more sense to me. A lot of these guys are just taking a look and saying, hey, listen, it's a business, we have to deal with the ATF, and that's all there is to it. A lot of people aren't educating themselves and not really looking into it and saying, what can we do, or looking at the history, looking at how the Gun Control Act was started.
Why do you suppose it is that dealers, distributors, manufacturers have become accustomed to having to accept laws that are unconstitutional, that are destructive to their business? And also, why do you suppose it is that there are 2,300 BATFE agents in America focused on the firearms issue and 100 million armed Americans, commonly called gun owners? Why would you think 100 million armed Americans are on their knees groveling and begging 2,300 arrogant bureaucratic thugs to enjoy their rights?
We all seem to fall in line. We don't question, what's supposedly our authority, and we say, okay, this is how it is, and we don't see that, that this is not how it should be. That we look at it and say, okay, this is what we have to do, and this is what we will do, and nobody questions it. Nobody, everybody sits there and says, okay, this is what's been given to me. These are the rules and guidelines. When these ATF agents come into your store and begin barking, out orders to you, you have to step in line and you have to do whatever they do, or they will ruin your livelihood. And that's just what it boils down to. I was just amazed when the last, you bring up arrogant ATF agents. The last ATF agent that we had in 2005, this guy was just bragging to us, my mother and one of my other employees, how they like to quote unquote screw with some of these explosive dealers, and he told us a story about a gun dealer who became an ATF agent so he could stop being screwed with and start screwing with other dealers. It's just, and he had even told me as well that personally I don't think that anyone should own a gun. And this is the mentality. This is what we're dealing with, and we're being pushed around. No one wants to fight the government. Nobody has the money to fight the government, and but at the same time we don't coordinate. We sit there and and like I've experienced as well, we throw others to the wolves and we say, hey, listen, you know what? Good thing that that's not me. But what happens when it does come down and it is you? What happens to the ATF agent in 2005 found this one gentleman who had been purchasing too many handguns. He pointed out, he said, this guy has bought too many handguns. I said, I don't remember there being a law against this. He asked me for his information. He said, I'm going to go and question this person. Why has this person not bought any long guns or, or shotguns or rifles or anything like that? He has bought too many handguns. And I said, there's no law against that. I said, you're really going to go question this person. And I finally told him, I said, this is a person who lost his arm lost one of his arms in a car wreck. He cannot carry a long gun. He can't shoot a shotgun. I said, all he can shoot is handguns. But yet at the same time, he was still going to question that person. And we get pushed around, and I've heard tons and tons of other horror stories, and asking, why are people just going along with this? Why are they not questioning it? And and I have to ask myself that as well, and say, why have we dealt with this for so long? And why do we continue to be pushed around by this government agency who makes up their own rules? Like I said before, these are policies, not laws, that they continue to start new ones and start new policies, and that we have to, all of a sudden, us dealers go, okay, well, here's a new policy that we have to have this poster up, or we have to hand out these new free gun locks. Nobody questions it, and a lot of times we're unaware, going, okay, here's a new policy that we have to abide by, we have to fall in line, and if not, then we'll be shut down.
What do you think is going to happen to stop this insanity and the criminality of the BATFE?
Well, they had the ATF Reform Act of 2006. It received bipartisan support. Our attorney, Richard Gardner, had actually spoken in front of Congress to tell about the abuses going on. It was eventually held up in the Senate by Dianne Feinstein. I've spoken with a lot of industry insiders who sit there and say that they do not think that they can get another ATF Reform Act. A couple other people have brought out, how about cutting their budget? Because what's ironic is that their budget keeps getting increased, but the number of dealers is dropping at a staggering rate. But I now agree with the JPFO, that we have to boot the BATFE. Our leaders think that we need them, that they're a necessary evil, but they're not, and we can get rid of them, and we must. If not, the ATF is going to continue to eat away at our Second Amendment rights. I've even suggested some of the organizations who question if this can be done. And I said, you know what? If not, fire the director of industry operation who loses in court. Because if he chooses to go after a dealer, then he chooses to, sacrifice his job. Because he's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayers' money to, sink a legitimate business. And that's just it. Is this director that we're going against, this Richard Van Loan, he's made every step to make our lives just miserable. And, and it just goes to show, what the JPFO has said all along, that this is a dangerous and vindictive government agency. And a lot of people say, okay, well, gee, if we get Republicans in or, if, we get the Democrats out, this is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is an agency that has been out of control under both Republican and Democrat administrations. The change has to happen. Like I said, we cannot sit idly by while they're shutting dealers down. At what point do we say enough is enough? At what point do we realize that we strongly outnumber the ATF and we get to a point and say we will no longer be pushed around by these thugs?
That indeed is a good question. We're going to have to end it on that because of time. But, Ryan, I want to thank you very much for appearing today on Talkin to America. Would you quickly give people your website address and a phone number if you wish?
Yes, that's www.redstradingpost.com, and our phone number is 208-733-3546.
Ryan, thank you again for being with us today. Our guest has been Ryan Horsley of Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls, Idaho. I've been your host, Aaron Zellman, and I would like to remind you, if you won't defend your rights, don't complain when you lose them.
Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of JPFO.org or its members. Talkin to America is a production of JPFO.org.